Hey, this is Brent with Vintage Statements, and today I've got Robert with Plywood, and we're gonna do some candle holders. Are you ready for it? Let's go. All right, today what's gonna happen is we're gonna run through the whole process of making these decor rustic candle holders from start to finish. So let's get started by learning a little bit about Robert. Robert, how long have you been doing this?
I've been making these for, I don't know, a few years. And what I like about these is they're a great item that is small, can go in your house. And I like to personalize these. I probably got this idea from online, Pinterest or something. I don't think that this is my idea, but I had some extra wood from a couple trees that I cut down, and I thought maybe I could do something with it several years after it was sitting in my garage just drying out.
Nice. So do you just grab some branches and cut them down and you can start right away, or is there like a drying process to this?
Yeah, so if you have, there's all sorts of ways you can get this wood. So these were from, again, branches and tree trunks that I cut down from two trees that I just didn't want in my yard. The root system was a problem, but you can use any type of wood. I've used primarily Indian rosewood because that's what I had on hand. But there's all sorts of types of wood that you can use. The drier, the better.
Okay. So what would be a percentage if somebody was looking for that? Or maybe somebody that doesn't have a way to check the percentage. How long would you think a piece of wood, maybe like this, would take to dry out to get to the point where you need it?
So the general rule of thumb is that with a wood that these are about the same thickness, with a branch that you cut off, it's approximately 1 year for every inch that it is thick. The thing is that here in Arizona, it gets really hot. If you want to dry wood out, it's not ideal to leave it in the sun. You just want to have it maybe in the garage or in the shade and sort of climate controlled. So more heat will dry it out a little bit faster. But if you dry it out too quickly, you can end up with checks and cracking. And that's not ideal because then you have to come back around and you have to fill it in with either some sort of adhesive or like an epoxy.
So if you had a branch and maybe it was out in the woods, like if we went camping and we found an old branch and it felt dry, does that symbolize anything like that it's completely dry, or do you still need to check it?
The lighter the better. There's actually a machine that you can use. So a branch that feels lighter, I mean, usually you have a sense for like whether it was freshly cut or not. You'll see it's green. You'll see like on these, the bark is pulling off because it's drying. And so this is starting to shrink. This is just getting dry. You can buy a moisture meter like this. This was about 40 bucks. You can get them for 20 to 50 bucks. There's some really expensive ones, but this will tell you how wet it is. So ideally 8 to 9%. Around 11 to 12 you can use that, but the more moist it is, the wood, the more likely it is to check and cause you problems down the road.
Awesome. So how long of a process do you think it's going to take us to, from start to finish, from this to this today? How long?
So this one's actually not sanded. If you were to go with something like from this to this,
okay,
maybe a couple hours just for the cutting, removing the bark, the sanding, and then you'll add a couple hours once you put the first clear coat on, just to kind of finish it. It'll be add a couple hours, you do a second coat, and then you're good.
Okay, so what would be the first step from this piece? This looks like it's dried out, ready to go. What would be our first step?
So really we just have to get a sense for how big we want the candle holder to be. The wider the base, the taller you can go. You don't want to make a candle holder that's going to topple over if somebody sneezes on it. you want something that's pretty stable. So this is shorter, wider, this is pretty stable. You could use one of these, you could do 4, 5, 6 inches, but it's not going to be very steady. This one, because it's a little bit thinner, I went with closer to like 4 inches or so. I try to go for about 6 inches. And the other thing that'll kind of guide it is when you look at some of these, you're also going to gauge it by, what makes sense. You got these branches that I cut off here. I chose right at the bottom of this branch and the top of this one that I had cut off. So this is about 6 inches, give or take, 5.5 to 6.25.
Okay.
And it's stable. I've made other ones that were maybe about 3, 4 inches, a little bit more narrow. This one will probably go for maybe about 3 to 4 inches.
Okay, perfect. Well, so the first step would be, do we remove the bark first, or what? Do we cut it first, or?
So to remove the bark, we'd have to take it off of this entire branch. If we're just trying to make one candle holder out of this, we're just going to cut a section, remove the bark, and then sand it down.
Sweet. Well, let's get ready for that, okay? We're going to start cutting here, and we're going to use the miter saw, which we'll get to next. All right, while Robert sets up here with his mask, we got the miter saw. Now, as you can see in a lot of these pieces, they're not completely up and down, right? We've got some curves in it. Now, Robert, how do you attack that with the miter saw?
So we've got this back fence that's a straight guide. And what I do is just take the branch, figure out where I want to start. There's only a little tiny branch here, we can knock that off. So I'm going to use this as a guide. I've got a straight edge that I can put up against here. It'll be a 90-degree angle. And then I'm just going to run it to approximately up here. These are marked, so I'll come to about 3-4 inches, whatever looks right on here. Line it up. And we might use clamps depending on where we go. If we use 5-6 inches, that's a little bit safe. You don't want to get your hand too close to the blade. So we might use some clamps, we'll cut it, and then we'll take the bark off.
Right on. Let's get started by doing that. I'll let you take it from here. Okay, so Robert's cut the piece. We still got the bark on it. It's a nice solid piece. So from here, Robert is going to remove the bark from it, right?
Yeah, we got a couple of chisels.
Would you ever leave the bark on it?
Yeah, you can.
You could?
They say that, I've read where if you down a tree or fell a tree a certain time of year, the bark will stay on. Another time of year, the bark will fall off. If you're just finding this up in the woods, like Tonto National Forest, for instance, you're going to not have any idea when it fell. So just be prepared. If you leave the bark on, it's possible that it could fall off over time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right on. So from here, what were you using? Just regular chisels?
Yeah, we're just going to use a couple of these chisels.
Okay.
This is a pretty tight curves. So we're going to start here with where it's already, there's a gap from where it's drying out. I'll use the chisels, I'll get a little hammer, we'll knock this off, and then we'll see what's left. Sometimes there's some parts that stick on there and they take a little bit more work. And then after that, once we get the main bits of bark off, we'll use a sander to get the final bit to get down to a surface like this one.
All right. Well, you take it from here. All right, so Robert's done all the hard work today. I'm not even sweating yet. Well, maybe a little bit. But same piece of wood that he cut, removed all the bark, and you can kind of see maybe that there's still a little bit of the bark residue left over, and that's where we're going to start the sanding process to make this smooth. And it'll really bring out the colors of this wood. This is a really nice looking wood. So, what kind of sander you got?
We got a Ryobi sander.
What kind of sandpaper? What grade?
We're going to use 60 grit to get all of this off. And we might go a little bit finer for just smoothing out the rest of it.
Now 60 grit's really sharp, so it's gonna really eat away this this wood. So keep an eye on that. You know, like it's gonna go real nice, but you want to come back, maybe get it a little bit thinner if you want that finer look. I don't mind the 60 and 80 grit look because it still keeps with that bark look or that the wood grain look. So let's get started. Let's get Robert started on this project. Alright, so we're here at the drill press. We've got it sanded down. Now Robert's going to run us through the next portion, which is actually drilling the hole for the candle. And this can get a little tricky, it looks like. So, Robert, tell us why you got a piece of cardboard or a piece of plywood here, and how you're going to do this.
So the plywood, we're going to clamp the plywood to the table on the drill press. On this plywood, I put a couple nails in the bottom just to keep this stable. You can hold on to these. The wider the candle holder is, the harder it is to get a grip on it. And so this is a pretty small one, but this will just make it a little bit easier when we're drilling. We can focus on the drill and the depth. and it's not going to put as much torque onto the candle holder.
Is this a project that you would recommend using like a hand drill or like just a standard drill, or would this only be worthy on a press?
So you can use a drill guide. We're using Forstner bits,
Okay.
and those, in my experience, are harder to put in a drill guide and to drill straight. We want this T-light to fit right into here, and these are pretty standard. You can buy these anywhere. This is going to be a 1.5 inch Forstner bit, and so you could use a drill guide if you don't have a drill press. It's going to be harder. You have to put a lot of force into it. The drill press really gives you the opportunity to put a lot of force to get it drilled.
Okay. Where the press is just going to make this a lot easier on you.
Yeah.
So not everybody has one of these, right?
Not everyone has one of these. So if you're trying to do this, like this is going to be one of your first projects, and then we're going to use the T-light. We'll drop this in. We're going to drill down a little bit. We're going to drop this in, see the depth, and we're going to try and get it just about level with the top of the candle holder.
Now, is that why you have the tape on here, or is that just a different?
No, I put this tape on here just to so it was my go-to.
Okay.
I pop the Forstner bit, case open. I know it's this one. Pop it in.
Gotcha.
I don't have to try and remember which one.
Okay. Well, let's watch them drill a hole here. All right, Robert has drilled the hole for the T-light here. So from this point, all kinds of options that you could go. You could just seal it, which is perfectly fine. It'll bring out all the color of the wood grain and things like that. You could, as an example, burn the logo into it. You could do all kinds of cool stuff with this. We could get a Dremel, we could draw it, create and carve out a logo or something like that. It's kind of up to you. But for this project today, just to kind of show you just the process of how Robert makes the T-lights, we're going to just take this piece and we're going to seal it, and then that's going to be it. It's going to be a nice like side piece, side table. It could be on your mantle, things like that. Now, you don't ever just want one. You may want to buy 3 or 4 of these from Robert. Pretty cool little pieces.
5.
5, actually. So let's get started by sealing this piece. Alright, here it is completed. I kind of wanted to show you the timeline here. We cut a piece of wood, we left with the bark on, then we removed the bark, we drilled our hole, we did some sanding, and now we're waiting for that piece that we've seen through the whole video to dry from that clear coat on it. So from here, Robert, what would you say about this project for you?
This is a pretty straightforward project. It's a fun one. I like it because I've made a lot of these for people who maybe wanted something to memorialize, maybe an event or an anniversary, a loved one. You can make just something as just rustic decor that you can put in your house. I think they're great. It's a simple project. The steps are simple, at least. Depending on how precise you want to get with it, how level you want them to be, how perfect you want the holes for the T-light candle holders, that's really going to determine which tools you need to get the project done the way that you want it.
Now, if you're in Phoenix, definitely get yourself over to his Instagram page, check him out, and definitely try to pick up a few of these for your own house. They're pretty cool. I really like the wood choices. What is your Instagram and any other followings that they can find you at?
The best way to find me is on Instagram. It's pyrewood.phoenix. It's Pyre, pyrewood.phoenix, and that's where you'll find a catalog of all my work, other candle holders I finished with other designs, and if you have any questions, you can hit me up.
Good. Well, we're in the video. We'll let this dry, and well, enjoy the rest of your day. Make sure you leave a comment or two. Tell us what you think about these projects, and well, we'll have another guest appearance here down the line with another type of project that Robert works on. Have a good day.
Bye.